Chapter 906. At the same time, the entirety of Elysium underwent a huge change. Not long after Yichen passed the life and death calamity, 7 colored heavenly flowers fell from the sky of Elysium, covering every corner of the world. Be it ordinary people, martial artists, humans, or other races, as long as they were awake, they could see the heavenly flowers falling and disappearing without a sound. In the underwater palace, 7 colored heavenly flowers also fell. Heavenly flowers falling, king is born. He has indeed entered life and death realm. A cold light flickered in the black-skinned expert's eyes as he said word by word. The horned blood figure pondered for a while, then said, after becoming a king, one can enter the state of being one with the world at any time and form a connection with Elysium. Elysium will more or less react to it. However, not every life and death king will have the phenomenon of heavenly flowers falling. Only a few geniuses with astonishing potential who can influence the future will have the phenomenon of heavenly flowers falling when they break through to life and death realm. There are 4 levels of heavenly flowers: white flower, 3-colored flower, 5-colored flower, and 7-colored flower. The number of people who can reach 7-colored flower is less than 2 in 1,000 years. This kid can influence the future. Regardless of whether it's big or small, he must be eliminated. I'll leave this matter to you. The black-skinned expert instructed the horned blood figure once again. The blood figure said, "Don't worry, I've already contacted 9 Nether. His 9 Nether great art can reflect this kid's shadow. We'll be able to find his traces in a short time." 9 Nether has appeared? The black-skinned expert's eyes brightened. Indeed, he contacted me on his own. However, he has already changed into a new body, and his battle power has yet to recover to its peak. But the heavens are helping us. Although 9 Nether's battle power at his peak is not inferior to mine, his greatest use is his 9 Nether great art. If he had appeared earlier, perhaps this kid would have already been eliminated, and there would be no need to go to war. The black-skinned expert sighed. Then I'll take my leave first. After saying that, the horned blood shadow's body dissipated, and the light on the blood-colored stone dimmed. 9 Nether, it's been a few decades. I wonder what you've become now. If you had listened to my advice back then and kept a low profile, you wouldn't have been hunted down by the Dragon King and Xianhou. In the end, even your body was destroyed, the black-skinned expert thought. What beautiful flowers! Yi family! The 2 teenage boys and girls stopped cultivating and stretched out their hands to catch the rainbow-colored heavenly flower that was falling from the sky. The rainbow-colored heavenly flower looked like it could not be touched. It directly passed through their palms and landed on the ground, disappearing without a sound. Xiao Xiao, don't you feel that these rainbow-colored flowers are very familiar to us? There seems to be something familiar on them, the handsome youth said to the girl. The girl was still young, but she was already slender and elegant. She nodded and said, "I also find it strange. The rainbow-colored flowers give me a feeling like Big Brother." You also have this feeling? The teenager was amazed. Chaotic Demonic Sea, Lotus Demonic Island. It's Yichen. The rainbow-colored heavenly flower fluttered in the air, bathing Murong Qingqing. Wearing a gorgeous black robe, the beautiful demonic human emperor walked over and said, "I don't know if he's your little lover or not, but if you don't work hard, you won't even have the qualifications to catch up to him." The demonic human emperor sighed with emotion. It had only been a few years since they parted, but the little ant from before had already grown into an expert at her level. Although his battle strength was still much weaker than hers, at least they were at the same level. If he was given more time, there would be very few people in this world who could do anything to him. She was somewhat glad that she didn't become enemies with Yichen back then. Otherwise, she would have gained another great enemy in the future. Of course, if she chose to become enemies, she wouldn't let Yichen escape. Future. Murong Qingqing turned around and said with a trace of respect. In the past few years, the demonic human emperor had been wholeheartedly helping her increase her strength. Without him, she wouldn't have been able to reach the peak of the 3rd layer without entering the life and death secret realm. Let me tell you something. Your little lover has already been targeted by otherworldly experts. The demonic human emperor faintly nodded and said something that worried Murong Qingqing a lot. Someone from the demons? Murong Qingqing clenched her fists. Yeah. But don't worry. Your little lover is still alive, which means that his survival ability is very strong. That deluge of heavenly flowers just now was most likely him entering life and death realm. So, you don't need to worry too much. Entering life and death realm as soon as possible is what you need to do. The demonic human emperor told Murong Qingqing this matter because she wanted her to feel a great sense of urgency. As for why she wanted Murong Qingqing to become stronger, apart from not wanting her talent to go to waste, she also hoped that the demonic human clan would have one more person who could speak for them. It would be very difficult for her to protect the demonic human clan in the turbulent future by herself. I will enter life and death realm. Murong Qingqing heavily nodded, her bright eyes filled with determination. All right, continue your cultivation. The demonic human emperor turned around and left. Before leaving, the demonic human emperor inwardly thought, why do I have a feeling that Qingqing can affect the fate of the demonic human clan? Could it be because of him? Shaking her head, the demonic human emperor's figure flickered and disappeared from the Lotus Demonic Island. In the depths of the boundless void, there was an unknown secret realm. In the forbidden area of the secret realm, inside the golden pond, a naked figure drilled out of the water. The golden water submerged her towering twin peaks, making them faintly discernible. Her wet long hair draped over her shoulders, making her skin look even more exquisite and fair. Extending her hands, the woman tried to catch the rainbow-colored flower. However, the rainbow-colored flower passed through her palms. Junior brother Yi, you finally entered life and death realm. The woman was precisely Su Jing. A joyous expression appeared on her face, and her whole body seemed to have relaxed a lot. I also need to increase my realm as soon as possible. Her body drilled down. Su Jing once again dived into the golden pond. Her snow-white feet streaked across the surface of the water, making one's heart beat faster. The black-skinned expert could sense that Yi Chen had entered life and death realm because he had arranged this operation. Yi Xian and Yi Xiaoxiao could faintly sense that it was Yi Chen because they were close relatives of Yi Chen. As for Murong Qingqing and Su Jing, it was because they had an unbreakable connection with Yi Chen. Apart from them, there was another person who knew that the rainbow-colored flower phenomenon was caused by Yi Chen. She was none other than Xianhou. The mysterious path was a very mysterious martial path. Beside the pond, Xianhou did not catch the rainbow-colored flower. This rainbow-colored flower was the manifestation of Elysium's great Tao. It could be seen but not touched. It was an incorporeal existence just like the rules. Old Dragon King, you can rest assured now. Yi Chen has already grown up. In the future, he will be one of the main characters. Those otherworldly experts might have to be cleaned up one by him. Who knows, in this generation, he might be able to restore Elysium to its ancient glory. Bending down, she continued to feed the fish. Xuanhou's figure blended into the scenery as if it had become an ink painting. The whole world's experts were shocked. Several decades ago, the rainbow-colored flower had appeared once. At that time, Xianhou appeared out of nowhere and became a world-famous peak king in a short period of time. Who would it be this time? The rainbow-colored flower phenomenon lasted for a quarter of an hour before disappearing. However, nobody noticed that a black and white sword scar had pierced through the whole of Elysium, forming a connection with the sky sword at the center of Sky Sword Continent. The sky sword faintly trembled and let out a sky-shaking sword cry, seeming to be an angry roar. However, it had no choice but to restrain itself. In the Sea of Soul realm, one would enter the state of being one with the heavens for a short period of time with each minor realm. After entering the life and death realm, one could enter the state at any time and comprehend profounds would advance by leaps and bounds. Although profounds were harder to comprehend in the later stages, one mustn't forget that Yi Chen's soul was 10 times that of a life and death king's. In theory, his comprehension ability was also 10 times that of ordinary people. Therefore, in a short half a month of seclusion, Yi Chen's profounds had made huge progress in all aspects. First was the space profound. Space profound was one of the strongest profounds, and its difficulty was several times that of ordinary profounds. Therefore, the progress wasn't too exaggerated. However, with the foundation of 4 Extreme Emperor's Space Profound, it had also reached 70% completion. Next was the Metal Profound and Water Profound, which went from 90% completion to greater completion, only a step away from perfection. Of course, this step was the most difficult. Many people would spend decades or even hundreds of years, but still couldn't raise any of their profounds to perfection. Yi Chen's comprehension ability was 10 times that of others. Under normal circumstances, it would still take him several years or even 10 years. Next, his Wood Profound rose from 60% to 90%, his Speed Profound rose from 50% to 80%, and his Shadow Profound rose from minor success to 70%. Finally, even his Slowness Profound, which was extremely difficult to comprehend and had no reference, broke through from minor success to 50%. With the advancement of profounds in all aspects, Yi Chen's battle strength naturally rose along with it. Before, he couldn't tell whether his battle strength was peak 3-star or Overlord 3-star. But now, he was sure that his battle strength had already reached 4-star. 4-star was the equivalent of a peak king. Of course, peak kings had different levels of strength. Yi Chen's current strength wouldn't be at the bottom of the 4-star kings, but it wasn't very likely for him to be peak 4-star or Overlord 4-star. My Space Profound has reached 70% completion. I'm afraid that Bewitching Mirror Shattering won't be able to use the 70% Space Profound to its limit. It's time to create a new Space Profound sword move. Bewitching Mirror Shattering was extremely powerful. Right now, it would be quite difficult for Yi Chen to create a Space Profound sword move that was even more powerful than Bewitching Mirror Shattering. However, before that, Yi Chen decided to merge Bewitching Mirror Shattering and the uncreated second Space Profound sword move into one sword art. This sword art would focus on the Space Profound. Let's call it the Sky Shattering sword art. Yi Chen immediately thought of a name and decided on it. Chapter 907. Sky Shattering Sword Arts and Autumn Water Sword Arts. These two sword arts used the Space Profound as the core, while the Metal and Water Profound as the core. They were also the 3 profounds that Yi Chen would cultivate in the future. As for vibrational sword arts, it was a bit unique. It could be considered a skill-based sword art. The first style, Sky Cutting Sword, walked the path of vibrational power. The second and third styles would only become more and more powerful, which was equivalent to the evolved version of Sky Cutting Sword. Wanting to create the second style of Sky Shattering Sword Arts was much more difficult than creating the second style of Autumn Water Sword Arts, Congealing Water. Space Profound was one of the strongest profounds. 70% Space Profound was equivalent to 120% ordinary profounds. What kind of sword art could perfectly accommodate 70% Space Profound? Yi Chen had no idea. He could only take it one step at a time. Who knew, he might have some new inspiration along the way. Bewitching Mirror Shattering first seals and then kills the enemy, which actually weakens its lethality. The second style should focus on its lethality. Yi Chen soon determined the path of the second style of Sky Shattering Sword Arts. But before that, I'll first restore my cultivation base to its peak. It was too difficult for Life and Death Kings to restore Zhen Yuan. The Zhen Yuan of a Life and Death King was 10 times that of a high-level half-step king, and 5 times that of a peak third-layer Life and Death Chamber. The purity of Zhen Yuan was frighteningly high, and the conversion rate of Heaven and Earth Yuan into Zhen Yuan was naturally very low. On the other hand, the cultivation base of Life and Death Kings was at least dozens of years, and at most hundreds of years. Taking Yi Chen for example, his Zhen Yuan was a dozen times more than before, reaching 100 years of cultivation base, not to mention those Life and Death Kings with hundreds or even thousands of years of cultivation base. Therefore, if Life and Death Kings wanted to quickly restore Zhen Yuan, they could only rely on external objects, such as Supreme Great Spirit Stones or Zhen Yuan crystals, or even find a blessed land. In this half a month, Yi Chen had always been in the state of being one with the world. He didn't deliberately circulate Green Lotus Sword Arts to refine the Heaven and Earth Yuan. Therefore, his Zhen Yuan hadn't completely recovered yet. Taking out a huge pile of Supreme Great Spirit Stones, Yi Chen began refining them. 10,000, 30,000, 50,000. 100,000. 200,000. After spending a total of 200,000 extreme rank spirit stones, Yi Chen's cultivation base had finally reached the 100-year level. He then continued to circulate his Green Lotus Sword spell, completing 108 great circulations, imprinting his own Zhenyuan with his own aura. In the future, as long as he didn't lose too much of his cultivation base, he would still be able to recover quickly. After cultivating for 100 years, Yi Chen did not stop. 2 million Zhenyuan crystals flew out of the storage ring, piling up in front of Yi Chen like a small crystal mountain, dazzling. These Zhenyuan crystals did not reach the standard of low-grade Zhenyuan crystals. 5 of them were equivalent to 1 low-grade Zhenyuan crystal. However, they won in quantity. If he wanted to increase his cultivation, he would need to have a strong mental state. Mental state included control. Without enough control, even if you had so much cultivation base, you wouldn't be able to control it. And the Zhenyuan that couldn't be controlled would automatically dissipate, unable to be stored in the body. However, treasures that could increase cultivation base were few and far between. Everyone could increase their cultivation base slowly, so there was no situation where they couldn't control it. As time passed, Yi Chen's cultivation base increased rapidly. 110 years of cultivation base. 120 years. 150 years. 2 million Zhenyuan crystals had increased Yi Chen's cultivation base to 150 years. However, Yi Chen didn't feel the slightest burden. His mental state seemed to be able to control more Zhenyuan. Zhenyuan crystals had been used up, and supreme grade spirit stones had been used up by 200,000. Right now, he only had 850,000 supreme grade spirit stones left in his storage ring. Although supreme grade spirit stones were not as precious as low-grade Zhenyuan crystals, they still had a third of the effect. 850,000 of them were enough to increase his cultivation base by 30 years. I'll refine them first. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound, Yi Chen prepared to turn the remaining supreme grade spirit stones into his own cultivation base. In the end, Yi Chen's cultivation base reached 180 years, and he only had 130,000 supreme grade spirit stones left. Yi Chen didn't intend to use them all. He wanted to keep some in his hands. Who knew they might come in handy in the future? Supreme grade spirit stones were the common currency among life and death kings. Letting out a breath, Yi Chen stood up and stretched his body. Now, it's time to create the second style of sky-shattering sword arts. Creating sword moves was different from comprehending profoundness. Comprehending profoundness was comprehension, while creating sword moves was application. Comprehending profoundness and not being able to use it was useless. Comprehending profoundness and being able to use it was the martial way, the sword way. The great Tao was formless, but the martial Tao and sword Tao were tangible. 9 Nether, I haven't seen you for dozens of years, but you're getting younger and younger. In the depths of the void, 2 black figures stood there. One was a ferocious-looking man with a horn on his head and a height of more than 3 meters. The other was a youth who looked to be only 15 years old. However, his eyes were blue and captivating, making it difficult for others to look at him directly. The youngster smiled. Horn Demon, you've been hiding in the dark for so many years. Don't you feel bored? Although bored, it's very safe. Not necessarily. I heard you've already changed several strongholds. How many is it this time? Although I've lost my main body and changed to a new one, the rules of Elysium no longer reject me. Give me time, and I'll be able to recover to my peak. Even reaching 6-star battle strength is quite possible. But you only have 4-star battle strength right now. 1 Xianhou can kill you. The fiendish man gave the youngster a blow. I'll definitely take revenge, but not now. Speak, who do you want me to find? The youngster didn't want to argue and asked. Yi Chen, you should know. It's him. No wonder, I've heard of him before. The youngster nodded. Bring me to the place where he appeared before. I need to search for his aura before I can find him. Let's go. The fiendish man's figure flashed and flew out. The youngster followed closely behind. Half an hour later, the 2 of them arrived above the sea. There were many blood-robed guards standing guard here. Seeing the fiendish man arrive, the blood-robed guard in the lead flew over and respectfully greeted, "Lord, is this the place?" The fiendish man asked, "Yes, the remains of Lord Greybird King are also here." "All right, you can leave first. 9 Nether, you can start." The fiendish man looked at the youngster. Of course, the youngster's expression turned serious. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened them. 9 Nether soul search. A blue radiance spread out with the youngster as the center, covering a radius of several hundred li. In the next moment, countless tiny specks of light gathered. These specks were all different, roughly divided into 5 types. After classifying the 5 specks of light, the youngster found the speck that belonged to Yichen. This speck of light emitted a sharp aura, obviously left behind by a swordsman. "That's him." The fiendish man recognized the specks of pursuing Thunder King, Beard King, Ironarm King, and Greybird King. The remaining speck was naturally Yichen's. Good, after collecting his aura, it'll be much easier to find him. While speaking, the youngster withdrew the blue radiance he released and wrapped around Yichen's aura, forming a glowing blue sphere. The sphere floated in the air as if it was weightless. 9 Nether soul search. The youngster shouted and spat out a mouthful of demonic energy onto the sphere. Swish. After receiving the replenishment of energy, the sphere streaked across the sky and shot into the distance. "Follow it and we'll find Yichen." After flying out, the youngster turned his head and said to the fiendish man, "The 9 Nether great art is indeed mysterious." The fiendish man praised inwardly and chased after the youngster. The speed of the sphere was increasing with every passing moment, and every 2 hours, the youngster would spit out a mouthful of demonic energy onto the sphere so that its energy wouldn't be exhausted. Almost there. Compared to the beginning, the sphere's speed had increased by 3 times. The aura belonging to Yichen inside was surging, as if he was a traveler in a hurry to return home. On the nameless island, Yichen brandished his sword again and again. Every swing followed the trajectory of the spatial fluctuation. He gradually had an idea of the second style of the heaven-shattering sword art. The profound of space was the most profound, and there were thousands of ways to use it. Following the trajectory of the spatial fluctuation would allow the sword's speed to reach the speed of teleportation. Within a certain distance, one could completely ignore the distance between the 2 sides. Once the sword was swung, the opponent would immediately be hit. If the opponent's defense wasn't strong enough, they would naturally be killed. Apart from that, following the trajectory of the spatial fluctuation could also allow the sword energy to be more concentrated without any loss. However, up until now, Yichen had not been able to match the path of his sword with the path of the space ripple. He had never trained any kind of teleportation martial art before, so it was naturally very hard for him to do so. He could only try again and again. Occasionally, when he took a wrong path, he would have to immediately pull himself back and start again. However, compared to the beginning, Yichen had improved a lot. His sword's trajectory was gradually approaching the spatial fluctuation's trajectory. Sometimes, there would be a sword that completely matched the spatial fluctuation's trajectory, and its destructive power was unimaginable. It was countless times stronger than bewitching mirror-shattering and congealing water. Why do I sense an aura that belongs to me approaching? Suddenly, Yichen stopped practicing and turned his head to look into the distance. Open. The vertical silver eye on his forehead opened as Yichen looked over. Is it this blue ball of light? What the vertical silver eye saw was transmitted into his mind. Yichen's attention first fell on the blue ball of light. It was this blue ball of light that contained his aura. Yichen's eyes narrowed. In a short while, 2 figures and a blue ball of light flew over. "It's him." The youth waved his hand, and the blue ball of light dissipated, turning into blue light that merged into his body. The aura inside also instantly dissipated between heaven and earth. These 2 aren't from this world. Yichen could tell with a single glance that the demonic aura emitted by the youngster and the fiendish man was different from Murong's demonic aura. The former 2's demonic aura was incompatible with this world, while Murong's didn't give off such a feeling. Chapter 908. Otherworldly Demons. Yichen was not an idiot. He instantly guessed the identity of the two. Demons were not the only ones who came to Elysium. However, otherworldly experts who cultivated demonic power were only demons, and demons were the most ferocious otherworldly race in Elysium. 2 demon kings of demons have come to find me. They really think highly of me. Yichen did not sense any sense of danger from the two, which meant that their battling power had not reached the 5-star level yet. If they were, the first thing he would do would be to run away, since the difference between a 5-star and a 4-star battle power was way too huge. While Yichen was sizing up the fiendish man and the youngster, the latter and the youngster were also sizing up Yichen. Something is wrong. Compared to a life and death king, this kid's cultivation base is frighteningly deep. It's at least twice as deep. The youngster's bright blue eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. His blue gaze fell on Yichen's body, and he immediately estimated Yichen's cultivation base. This estimation left him greatly astonished. Normally, 50 years of cultivation base for someone who had just entered life and death realm was already not bad. Xianhou only had 90 years of cultivation base. However, Yichen's cultivation base had clearly surpassed 150 years, approaching 200 years. How could he know that Yichen had directly refined more than 2 million Zhenyuan crystals and 720,000 supreme-grade spirit stones, forcibly increasing his cultivation base by 80 years? Yichen, right? Today you will die without a doubt. But, to be able to live until now, you have some skill. The fiendish man had a pair of curved horns with spiral patterns on them. They were extremely sharp, and as he spoke, 2 cold lights flickered at the tips of the horns. Before life and death realm, you couldn't kill me. Now, it's even more impossible. Although your strength is high, I'm afraid you don't have 5-star battle strength, right? Yichen indifferently smiled, not fearing anything. Oh, it seems like you are very confident. Do you think that just because I am a 4-star warrior, I can't kill you? The young man's lips curled up as he taunted. Whether or not you can kill me, you'll know once you try. The young man looked at the fierce-looking man. Horn demon, we are being looked down upon. Stand guard at the side. Don't let him escape. The fierce-looking man said indifferently. All right. Crossing his arms over his chest, the young man retreated to the side. Yichen, before you die, you are qualified to know my title. My title is Demonic Horn. The fierce-looking man didn't waste any more words. After reporting his title, his figure flashed like a black lightning bolt, instantly closing in on Yichen and punched out. Magic Fist. It was the same demonic race martial skill as Murong Qingqing, but in the hands of the fiendish man, the demonic power was compressed to an even higher degree. With a single punch, a straight path appeared in the space, and the fist energy spread out in all directions. The Sky Scorpio sword in Yichen's hand trembled, emitting an ear-piercing sound. Yichen raised his sword to meet the attack, using vibrational sword arts. With a 5th-step spirit body and a life and death king's control over Zhenyuan, the might of vibrational sword arts at this moment exceeded Lan Sanmei's annihilation chop by countless folds. Space-shattering. Rumble. The fist and Sky Scorpio sword collided, and the two were sent flying back. For star battle strength. The fierce-looking man cried out in alarm. No wonder you are so arrogant. Turns out your battle strength has reached 4-star. The young man was also somewhat astonished. 4-star battle strength was not that easy to reach. According to this world's classification of strength, one would be a peak king. However, there were not many peak kings in Elysium, and each one was famous. Mid 4-star battle strength, not bad, not bad. Unfortunately, it is still not enough. The killing intent in the fierce-looking man's eyes intensified. That punch just now could easily injure a low 4-star king. For Yichen to receive it, his battle strength had clearly reached mid 4-star. Let's see if you can receive this punch or not. The fiendish man shouted and threw another punch. The fist energy brought with it a violent phantom of a demonic dragon. It shook its head and wagged its tail, and its claws and teeth were sharp. It was not hard to imagine that this demon race martial art was above the demonic power fist. It was the unique skill of the fiendish man. Yichen neither retreated nor dodged, and once again raised his sword to meet the attack. This time, he used congealing water. Before his profound improved, Yi Chen's battle strength was at most a 3-star tyrant. However, after his space profound reached 70% completion, and his metal profound and water profound reached greater completion, his battle strength had clearly reached mid-4-star. If not for congealing water, which prevented him from bringing out the full might of his metal profound and water profound, Yi Chen's battle strength would have continued to increase. The demonic dragon phantom collided with the extremely condensed sword energy. The demonic dragon phantom crumbled inch by inch, and Yi Chen's congealing water sword energy also dissipated like smoke in thin air. Both sides were still evenly matched. Horned demon, bring out your true skill. This kid's strength is quite strange. The youngster frowned. True skill? That's fine. I've never fought with a demon king of demons. Probing is not a bad thing. Yi Chen coldly gazed at the fierce-looking man and pointed the Sky Scorpio sword downward, spitting out a purple sword light. Battle strength nearing late 4-star. The fierce-looking man admitted that he had underestimated Yi Chen. This kind of genius that surpassed Xianhou simply couldn't be calculated with common sense. After entering life and death realm for a month, his battle strength had already reached mid-4-star, which was simply a miracle. If given some time, wouldn't he be able to reach 5-star, or even 6-star battle strength? I can't let him leave alive. The fierce-looking man made up his mind. Even if he had to pay a certain price, he had to keep Yi Chen here. Bending his back and clenching his fists, the fierce-looking man's body erupted with boundless evil demonic power. The demonic power soared into the sky, and a power that didn't belong to this world immediately collided with Elysium's heaven and earth Yuan Qi, giving rise to a gloomy scene. His body quickly swelled and deformed. Dense black scales appeared on the surface of the fierce man's skin. Bone spurs grew out of his elbows and knees. A long black tail also extended out of his tailbone. The tail was like a whip, very flexible and powerful. At the end of the tail was a triangular spike like the tip of a spear. The biggest change was in the fierce-looking man's arms. Not only were they twice as long, they were also several times thicker than his thighs. His explosive muscles were brimming with frightening power. It's a bit like the demonization of demonic human clan. Yi Chen was starting to understand why the demonic human race could turn into a demon. It was obviously a special ability inherited from the demon race. He wondered how much more powerful the demon race's transformation would be compared to the demonic human race's transformation. Swish. After the transformation was completed, the fierce-looking man's body moved and disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Yi Chen, and his fist enlarged in Yi Chen's eyes. So fast. Yi Chen was startled. After the transformation, the fierce-looking man's strength had increased by several times. Just now, Yi Chen's soul power hadn't been able to capture his movements. Clang. Raising the Sky Scorpio sword horizontally, Yi Chen blocked the fierce-looking man's fist, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Yi Chen retreated dozens of li. This fist had caused him some light injuries. If it weren't for the Sky Scorpio sword in his hand, he definitely wouldn't have been able to escape. He die. After the transformation, the fierce-looking man's battle power had increased by a level. Originally, he was at mid-4-star battle power, but now he was at high 4-star battle power. Moreover, his movement and attack speed were much faster than ordinary kings with high 4-star battle power. He could completely suppress kings at the same level. Swish! The fierce-looking man disappeared once again, appearing on the right side of Yi Chen. Sword domain. High 4-star battle power, Yi Chen could barely handle it. However, he still had the sword domain, which had reached the second layer. Its sword pressure was incomparably powerful, and it could slow down the opponent. The fierce-looking man's movements were somewhat out of shape. Just as he swung his fist, it met with an invisible obstruction. With no time to lose, Yi Chen suddenly turned his body sideways and thrust his sword out. Sword domain made his sword extremely fast, turning it into a purple ray of light. Dream on! The fierce-looking man's fist loosened, and he grabbed the tip of the Sky Scorpio sword, holding it tightly. Yi Chen sneered. Activating the vibration sword arts, the Sky Scorpio sword started vibrating at a high frequency. His palm turned numb. The fierce-looking man couldn't help but loosen his hand, and Yi Chen's sword stabbed into his chest, leaving a deep hole. However, it was blocked by the bones inside. So hard? Yi Chen didn't dare to be greedy. He immediately pulled out his sword and retreated. A black hole appeared where Yi Chen had been standing. The fierce-looking man's left fist slowly retracted. He actually has a fighting ability that can compare with us demons. The fierce-looking man's face was grave. Under the situation where their strengths were about the same, they would compete in terms of fighting ability. Fighting ability included many factors, such as experience, reaction, and instantaneous choice. The wound on his chest healed. This kind of injury was nothing to the fierce-looking man. Demons' demonic bodies were even more powerful than spirit bodies. Moreover, he was currently in his transformed state, so his defense was extremely strong. Yi Chen's sword energy couldn't reach other parts of his body unless it was powerful to a certain extent. Demons are indeed frightening. Yi Chen was very clear about the power of that sword. Although it was grabbed by the fierce-looking man's palm, the remaining sword energy was enough to injure human kings at the same level. However, judging from the fierce-looking man's expression, it seemed like he didn't care about it at all. Demons were a race higher than humans, and their innate advantage was obvious. Under the situation where their battle strength was equal, the demons would definitely have the advantage, such as physical defense. His sword domain should have reached the second level. From afar, the youngster was watching the battle between Horned Demon and Yi Chen. Horned Demon's battle strength was, without a doubt, high 4-star. After using sword domain, Yi Chen also had the strength to contend against Horned Demon. Of course, the situation was still in Horned Demon's favor. Sky Scorpio Sword's crystal power is about to run out. Lowering his head to look at Sky Scorpio Sword, Yi Chen sighed with emotion. Before breaking through, he had been in danger several times, and had no choice but to use the crystal power of Sky Scorpio Sword, greatly reducing its power. Just now, if Sky Scorpio Sword's crystal power was extremely powerful, he didn't believe that the fierce-looking man would be fine. After creating the second style of heaven-shattering sword arts, I should study the sword forging technique. The supreme grade materials I have are enough to forge a supreme grade sword not inferior to Sky Scorpio Sword. Chapter 909. Horned Demon, do you want me to make a move? It seems like you can't take him down by yourself. The youngster suggested. The fiendish man raised 3 fingers, 3 moves. If I can't take him down in 3 moves, then you can make a move. Right now, you just have to watch out for him to escape. As the Demon King of Demons, the fiendish man had his own dignity. To him, taking down Yi Chen was not a strenuous thing. Since it was not strenuous, why would he want to win by quantity? All right. The youngster nodded and did not make a move. Sizzle. Between the fiendish man's horns, a powerful electric current suddenly surged out. The 2 sharp horns with spiral patterns seemed to be electrified, glowing and heating up. With Horned Demon as his title, the pair of curved horns on the fiendish man's head were naturally extraordinary, containing a powerful demonic power. The demonic power flowed back into the fiendish man's body, and his demonic aura immediately doubled. The black scales on his body also faintly turned red, as if they had been roasted by fire. Demonic dragon battling heaven's secret art. The fiendish man roared as he pulled his right fist to the back of his head and abruptly punched out. A huge black dragon phantom roared as it charged towards Yi Chen, leaving a hideous crack in the space. His battle power has increased again. Yi Chen did not dare to be careless. He raised the Sky Scorpio Sword, and an invisible spatial ripple swept towards the huge dragon phantom. After his space profound reached 70% completion, although bewitching mirror shattering couldn't bring out the space profound to its peak, its power had increased by several times. The moment the huge dragon phantom came into contact with the spatial ripple, it was immediately sucked in, as if it had entered another world. The huge dragon phantom was extremely powerful. Even though it was sealed in the purple mirror, its body could still move. It swam around and struck everywhere, creating cracks on the purple mirror, as if it could rush out at any time. The purple mirror suddenly shattered, and the violent spatial fragments cut the huge dragon phantom's body, rapidly reducing its power. By the time the huge dragon phantom passed through the spatial fragments, its power was already less than 30% of its peak. It was chopped into two halves by Yi Chen's sword, turning into black air currents and returning to heaven and earth. Second move, Tyrant Dragon Fist. This time, the fiendish man didn't release a dragon phantom, but a dragon phantom that was several times larger than the dragon phantom. The dragon phantom was as big as a small mountain, and when it opened its mouth, it seemed as if it wanted to devour the entire world, bringing with it a powerful suction force. Yi Chen's clothes fluttered in the wind. He moved his feet and was pulled over by the suction force. Sword Domain. With a low roar, the sword pressure outside Yi Chen's body increased to the limit, contending against the dragon head's suction force. At the same time, he slashed 3 times on the dragon head's body. Clang, clang, clang. 3 deep sword scars appeared on the front of the illusory dragon head. At such a close distance, Yi Chen's vibrational sword spell had an unimaginable power. However, the illusory dragon head was not a normal demon race martial art, as its structure was very reasonable. Yi Chen's vibrational sword power could not completely tear apart the illusory dragon head. The suction force increased, and Yi Chen's entire body was sucked into the dragon head's mouth. Success. Seeing this, the fiendish man slowly let out a breath of turbid air. Yi Chen's difficulty was beyond his expectation. Fortunately, although his battle prowess was at the peak of 4 stars, when he used the Horn of Demons ability, it didn't reach the peak of 4 stars. However, this was because he forcefully entered Elysium and his body was injured. Outside of Elysium, his battle prowess was at the peak of 5 stars. The martial art of the demons that he created was very exquisite. Horn of Demon, I didn't expect your Tyrant Dragon Fist to become so exquisite. In the past, you weren't someone who liked details. The youth was slightly surprised and smiled. The fiendish man said, entering Elysium by force, we were all severely injured. It's fine if our battle prowess is high, we can make up for the lack of details. But now that our battle prowess has dropped to 4 stars, we naturally need to ponder on the details. How can we better display our battle prowess without any flaws? That's true. However, your Tyrant Dragon Fist still can't kill him. The youth glanced at the dragon head's image that was still charging at him and said, Tyrant Dragon Fist has a perfect spiral inside, which can consume a large amount of his Zhen Yuan. With his less than 200 years of cultivation, he won't be able to last long. The fiendish man was very confident in his Tyrant Dragon Fist. Perhaps it couldn't do anything to those with slightly higher battle prowess than him, but it was definitely the nemesis of those with lower strength. Just as the fiendish man was speaking, a glowing crack suddenly appeared on the dragon head's image. In the next instant, the crack expanded, and a human figure jumped out. Impossible! The fiendish man's eyes froze. The arrangement of the Tyrant Dragon Fist's demonic power was very tight. It was hard to destroy it from the outside, not to mention from the inside. Without exaggeration, if a peak 4-star king was accidentally sucked into the dragon head's image, they wouldn't be able to come out for a while, not to mention Yi Chen, who only had a high 4-star battle prowess. Nothing is impossible. Don't forget that he is the most outstanding genius in the last 10,000 years. Anything can happen to him. The youth squinted his eyes, and a blue light condensed into 2 beams of light. You take a sword of mine as well. After splitting apart the dragon head's image, Yi Chen's figure extended, and his clothes fluttered in the wind as he slashed at the fiendish man. The sword aura was light as a feather, without any trace of smoke or fire. Swoosh! The fiendish man was immediately hit by the sword, and a deep sword wound appeared on his chest. His left arm was also severed by the sword chi, which then turned into a bloody mist. Sky-shattering sword art's second style, orbit kill. To be more precise, it was an incomplete orbital kill. The complete orbital kill allowed the sword's trajectory to coincide with the spatial ripples, making the sword move as if it was teleporting. Its power and speed were both perfect, without the slightest loss. However, Yi Chen had yet to reach such a realm. He could only make the sword's trajectory follow the spatial ripples as much as possible. Even so, it was still enough to tear apart the dragon head's image and instantly injure the fiendish man. Without this incomplete orbital kill, as the fiendish man had said, Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan would have been consumed by the tyrant dragon fist, and he wouldn't have the slightest strength to counterattack. Only when the fiendish man's left arm was severed did the fiendish man and the youth react. Like a wounded wolf, the fiendish man roared with a sinister expression. What a frightening sword art! The youngster sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't expect that Yi Chen had already started to create even more powerful space-profound sword moves. Creating a profound martial skill was not something that could be done in a day or two. Although a king who had just entered life and death realm would have a huge improvement in their profounds, creating a profound martial skill that suited them would require at least a few years, or even decades. Of course, life and death kings had a lot of time, and this amount of time was nothing. However, Yi Chen had only entered life and death realm for a month, yet he was already researching a new space-profound sword move. How could he not be astonished? The other party's creation ability was simply monstrous. What a pity! Yi Chen shook his head. Just now, he actually wanted to chop off the fiendish man's head. However, the sword's trajectory didn't coincide with the spatial ripples, resulting in a slight deviation. It should be known that space was extremely mysterious, and a slight deviation could lead to a great loss. It was already not easy for Yi Chen to control the deviation to within 1 meter. Forget it, they are demons. Let's probe a bit more. In the future, when I fight other powerful demon kings, I'll know myself and the enemy better. Demonic beasts, demonic humans, and half-beasts. Yi Chen was very clear about their abilities. However, he knew very little about the demons that weren't from Elysium. Therefore, this battle was not a meaningless one. As his flesh wriggled, the sword wound on the fiendish man's chest and his missing left arm rapidly healed. Raising his head, he looked at Yi Chen with a cold and merciless expression. "Nine Nether, let's kill him together," the fiendish man said to the youth. The youth smiled. "It's just 2 moves. If he wasn't a genius from Elysium, I wouldn't mind fighting with him. But now, it's better to kill him as soon as possible. Our aura has been spread out by the will of heaven and earth. Soon, the experts in this world will be alerted." The fiendish man was very calm and didn't fly into a rage. "Hee, horned demon, why don't you work for me? Blackstone's strength wasn't stronger than mine. In terms of some methods, he's not as good as me. If you follow me, I can guarantee that you'll get more than him." The youth admired the fiendish man's cautious character and had the intention to recruit him. The fiendish man curled his lips. "Let's kill him first." For him, Nine Nether was a madman. It was safer to follow Blackstone. But now, he naturally couldn't reject Nine Nether's recruitment, lest the other party cause trouble. "All right, I know you don't want to follow me, but I will let you know who is better to follow." The youth seemed to have seen through the fiendish man's mind and didn't care. "You want to join hands to deal with me? Seems like I have to go." Yi Chen didn't think that he could fight against the 2 of them together. Even a peak 4-star king wouldn't be a match for the 2 of them. Only a 4-star tyrant would be able to defeat them. Tyrant Dragon Fist. Nine Nether Heaven Lock. The fiendish man and the youth attacked without hesitation. One blasted out a huge dragon head phantom, and a suction force appeared. The other drew a circle with his hands, and a blue light flooded the sky and sealed the space. One inside and one outside, perfectly coordinated. Obviously, they had worked together before and weren't unfamiliar with it. Unfortunately, even though they attacked fast, Yi Chen was even faster. His body flashed as Yi Chen's whole body merged with the space. Before the blue light disappeared, Yi Chen's speed was unbelievably fast, as if distance didn't exist. Not good, he has already used the space profound in his movement art. It will be hard to trap him. The youth's expression changed as he chased after Yi Chen. "Isn't your Nine Nether Heaven Lock very powerful in sealing enemies?" The fiendish man was anxious. "No, although the Nine Nether Heaven Lock also contains the space profound, It needs a long time to seal an enemy with a powerful space profound. The two followed closely behind Yi Chen, one in the front and one in the back. However, Yi Chen's space profound had reached 70% completion. As he moved through the void, the space power became his driving force, increasing his speed. Soon, the two of them lost sight of Yi Chen. Chapter 9-10. Nine Nether Soul Search. The youngster's face was a bit unsightly. The blue light spread out, collecting Yi Chen's aura and wrapping it in a blue light ball. A mouthful of demonic power was spat out, and the blue light ball chased after Yi Chen's aura. The youngster and the fiendish man followed behind, neither of them saying a word. He's right in front? The youngster was a bit strange. In his opinion, Yi Chen shouldn't have stopped. After a while, the two's faces became more and more unsightly. Yi Chen had obviously found the flaw of Nine Nether Soul Search. Along the way, he left behind a Zhen Yuan afterimage. This Zhen Yuan afterimage contained very little Zhen Yuan and didn't have much fighting power. However, it still had Yi Chen's aura. Nine Nether Soul Search could only sense aura, not life fluctuations. Thus, it naturally lost its effect. After shattering Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan afterimage with one punch, the fiendish man said in a low voice, "He still escaped. It's my mistake. If I had known earlier, I would have sealed the space and stabilized it." In fact, the youngster suspected that even if he had used Nine Nether Heaven Lock to stabilize the space, he might not have been able to stop Yi Chen. That sword move of Yi Chen's contained an unimaginable power. "It's not your fault. I was also careless." The fiendish man was deeply worried. The current Yi Chen was even more troublesome than Xianhou. The battle with Yi Chen just now made him understand that with their strength, even if they planned meticulously and went all out, they still wouldn't be able to kill Yi Chen. At most, they would be able to injure him. He had never thought that in such a short time, a small ant had grown to a point where they couldn't do anything. Sigh, if my strength had recovered a bit more, perhaps the ending wouldn't have been like this. The youngster sighed and continued, Blackstone was too cautious and lost the only chance to kill him. If he had gone all out from the start and personally attacked, the situation wouldn't have developed to this point. The fiendish man was silent. Sometimes, he also felt that Blackstone was too cautious. He was simply the polar opposite of the crazy Nine Nether. If the two of them could be combined, it would be perfect. Of course, he could also understand Blackstone's mood. Unsealing those sealed lords was the most important matter for Blackstone and the others. Blackstone did not want to complicate matters, so he was not willing to personally take action. Moreover, who could have predicted that Yi Chen would progress so quickly, breaking the norm and catching them unprepared? It's useless to talk about this now. The fierce-looking man shook his head. Indeed. The young man flicked his fingers and said, "This person's wings are growing stronger and stronger. If I can't kill him now, it will be very difficult to kill him in the future. I don't mind continuing to chase after him and wasting manpower and resources." The fierce-looking burly man looked at Nine Nether strangely. He didn't expect Nine Nether to be more mature than he had imagined. Perhaps the setbacks of these years had changed him a lot. In that case, he had to thank Xianhou and the Dragon King. Otherwise, with Nine Nether's craziness, he might have ruined the plan. Of course, this was Blackstone's evaluation of Nine Nether. I will talk to Blackstone. I believe he will not be willing to continue to waste energy chasing after Yi Chen. Not chasing after Yi Chen didn't mean that they had given up on killing Yi Chen. It was just that they didn't want to waste too much effort for Yi Chen's matter. If there was an opportunity in front of them, they would still give it a try. Just like Xianhou, if there was an opportunity, they wouldn't mind killing Xianhou. Unfortunately, there wasn't an opportunity. I believe that Blackstone has the same idea as me. Moreover, one Yi Chen may not be able to ruin our plan. Once those lords come out of the seal, not to mention one Yi Chen, even if there were 10 Yi Chens, it wouldn't matter. At that time, those with battle prowess below 6 stars won't be able to control the overall situation. The young man sneered. I hope so. The fiendish man felt that Nine Nether's words were reasonable. No matter how fast Yi Chen's progress was, he was only at the initial stage. Once he reached 5 stars, his progress would slow down. In the past, Xianhou had also reached 4 stars not long after entering life and death realm. However, after several decades, she had only increased by 1 star. Yichen was more formidable than Xianhou. Reaching the high or even peak 5-star battle prowess was already quite amazing. 6 stars was simply a pipe dream. 9 Nether, aren't you coming with us? Putting aside the matter of Yichen, the fiendish man said to the young man. The young man shook his head. You guys have your plans, and I have mine. Staying together, there's no guarantee of safety. On the contrary, we'll be much safer if we're separated. You should know that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. What a pity. With you joining us, the plan can be completed even faster. The fiendish man was extremely clear about 9 Nether's ability. All right, since we've given up on chasing this kid, I'll be heading back. It's best if we don't run into each other in the future. The young man took a step forward and turned into a blue light. Let's find a safe place first. The fiendish man broke through the space barrier and dove into the depths of the sea. An hour later, 2 powerful auras rushed over. One was a beautiful young woman who looked like an alluring fairy. Her figure was extremely enchanting. Her chest was ample and her waist was slender. Her legs were long and slender, occupying 2/3 of her body. Her buttocks were perky, forming an astonishing arc. In short, she was a fairy that could make any man go crazy. The other was a middle-aged man with a sharp aura like a heavenly sword, wearing a scholar's robe. Their auras far surpassed the fiendish man and the young man. If Yi Chen were here, he would certainly feel extreme danger and keep his distance. Azure Sky Sword Emperor, you also sense the demon's aura? The alluring woman spoke first. Indeed. The middle-aged man nodded. We're late. The Fey woman brushed away the hair on her forehead. Her beautiful eyebrows furrowed together, as if she were looking at her pitifully. The demons have come out, and chaos is coming. It doesn't matter if we kill these small fries or not. Only by finding their base can we get rid of them. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Although the stronger one is, the greater the injury. In recent years, there are still many otherworldly experts coming in. If I'm not wrong, their plan should be to unseal those super experts who have been sealed for countless years. Although these super experts have suffered great injuries, as long as they have the otherworldly treasures, they can still recover. The scariest thing is that as time passes in Elysium, their injuries are slowly recovering, and they're gradually adapting to Elysium. Once they break out and recover their cultivation, it will definitely be a disaster for our Elysium. This is a dead end. We have no other way. We can only increase our strength through the slaughter. Otherwise, we can only die together. The middle-aged man's eyes were cold, without a trace of emotion. Right now, we can only take one step at a time. I'll take my leave first. As she spoke, the alluring woman disappeared into the void. Her figure flickered, and she appeared tens of thousands of miles away. The chaotic era has come. Who knows how many kings will fall? The middle-aged man looked up at the sky, and in the next instant, his figure disappeared into the void. You and 9 Nether joined hands, but you still couldn't kill him? In the underwater palace, the black-skinned expert looked at the horned blood figure beside him and said in a low voice. The horned blood figure was a will projection projected by the bloodstone. He slowly said, "This kid is proficient in space profound. Whether it is his battle strength or escaping ability, he's top-notch. I'm afraid that no one under 5 stars can stop him. Ordinary 5-star kings don't have much hope, unless it's an extremely fast 5-star king." Battle prowess and speed were related, but not by much. A 5-star king with powerful battle prowess might not necessarily be faster than a 4-star king with powerful speed. Battle prowess was the embodiment of killing ability. Blackstone, this kid has already matured. We shouldn't waste too much energy. The horned blood figure suggested. After a moment of silence, the black-skinned expert nodded. I was too cautious. Since that's the case, let's give up on chasing him. Next, we should focus on unsealing the lords. The black-skinned expert was somewhat helpless. Previously, he had given up on chasing Xianhou, and now he was giving up on chasing Yichen. History was so similar. He couldn't help but admit that in Elysium, they still couldn't cover the sky with one hand. Using Space Profound, Yi Chen's speed was inconceivably fast. He shuttled through the void like a clump of formless spatial power. After a long while, Yi Chen stopped. After entering life and death realm, I can finally display a part of Space Profound. This movement art containing Space Profound is something I couldn't do before. Space Profound was one of the strongest profounds. It required great control, which was closely related to one's mental state. My battle strength should be at high stage 4 star. The Demon King demons I'm fighting is also at high stage 4 star. His foundation is a bit stronger than mine, but I can contend against him with orbit kill. It's hard to tell who will be the winner. But, adding that seemingly unfathomable youngster, I'm not his opponent. Yi Chen could see that although the youngster's aura was similar to the fiendish man's, his eyes were extremely frightening, as if he could see through one's heart. The same battle strength might not necessarily be equal. In comparison, Yi Chen felt that the youngster was a bit stronger than the fiendish man. This kind of strength came from the strength of his mental state. Unfortunately, orbit kill will take a long time to complete. Seems like I'll have to research other moves as soon as possible. It would be best if I could research the simpler ones that can increase my battle strength. Autumn Water Sword Arts? I can't. My Metal and Water Profound have both reached greater completion. To research a sword move that can contain 2 great profounds at greater completion will be more difficult than orbit kill. In a one-on-one battle, 70% completed Space Profound was naturally far superior to Metal Profound and Water Profound. 70% completed Space Profound was almost equivalent to 121% completed Metal Profound or Water Profound. However, when Metal Profound and Water Profound fused into one sword strike, the difficulty would skyrocket by more than 10 times, and its power would greatly surpass the orbital slash. Although Yi Chen's comprehension was 10 times higher than others, he couldn't create a powerful sword move just because he wanted to. It was too unrealistic. Since Autumn Water Sword Arts were not an option, he could only focus on vibrational sword arts. The first style of vibrational sword arts was Sky Cutting Sword. If he could create the second style, its might would definitely surpass the incomplete orbit kill. It would be a great help to the current Yi Chen. Chapter 9-11. After entering the life and death realm, one had to pay attention to too many details. Although his soul power and Zhen Yuan seemed to have increased, and his power was far beyond what it had been in the past, it was still not that easy to use. It was just like a normal person with 1,000 gene of strength suddenly increased to 10,000 gene or 100,000 gene. He would not be able to control his strength in a short period of time. If he held a cup, he might break the cup. If he sat on a bench, he might break the bench. Strength was important, but technique was equally important. And the most basic requirement for technique was to be familiar with one's own strength. Therefore, when he was studying the Space Profound sword move, Orbit Kill, he had already felt that there were still some problems with his soul power and Zhen Yuan control. He was not able to move the sword with his will like before. However, the vibrational sword spell's technique requirements were even higher than the Space Profound sword moves. This was because this sword art required Zhen Yuan vibrations to make the sword vibrate. If one wasn't familiar with their own strength, it would be impossible for them to study the second style of the vibrational sword spell. If other sword moves were dominated by profound, then the vibrational sword spell would be dominated by vibrating power, with profound as support. Vibrational sword arts contains metal profound. With the metal profound combined with vibrational power, the second style's might will be extremely frightening. Tearing apart objects of the same level will be as easy as flipping one's hand. Yi Chen was very confident in the second style of vibrational sword arts. He was different from Lan Sen. Although Lan Sanmei's demonic blade arts were very high, apart from demonic blade arts, his other advantages were much weaker. He had also heard of the demonic blade king of demonic blade sect. Relying on his superb demonic blade arts, he was invincible against kings of the same level. However, the potential of Yi Chen's vibrational sword arts was not inferior to that of demonic blade arts. Most importantly, Yi Chen had the sixth step destruction sword intent. Combined with it, the might of his vibrational sword arts would be extremely frightening. Familiarizing myself with soul power and Zhenyuan is nothing better than using defensive sword art. Next, I'll keep using it. Defensive sword art had a high requirement on soul power and Zhenyuan. While using defensive sword art, one could also familiarize themselves with soul power and Zhenyuan, killing two birds with one stone. Clang. The evil vanquishing sword unsheathed itself and floated beneath Yi Chen's feet. Stepping on the evil vanquishing sword, Yi Chen formed a sword spell, activating his soul power and Zhenyuan at the same time. Xiao, the evil vanquishing sword carried Yi Chen, turning into a cold sword light, shooting out, shuttling through the air. Sword Dragon Art. The moment Yi Chen entered the life and death realm, he had already surpassed the realm of 42 swords. The evil shattering sword flickered and split into 42 sword images. The sword images quickly arranged themselves, turning into a sword dragon with an imposing aura as it shot out. Wherever it went, the spatial power scattered. My soul power and Zhenyuan have increased tremendously, and the power of my defensive sword spell has increased by more than 10 times. When he had exchanged the defensive sword technique with Sidu Hao, Yi Chen knew that the defensive sword technique had great potential, especially for him, who had a mutated soul. With the defensive sword technique, even if his comprehension of power Upanishads wasn't the same as the others, it would still bring him endless glory, and he could compete with the heroes of the world. Big Dipper 7-star sword art. 33 swords could be used to execute the sword snake art, 42 swords could be used to execute the sword dragon art, and 49 swords could be used to execute an even more powerful sword art, Big Dipper 7-star sword art. Starlight flickered around the evil vanquishing sword, and 7 different sword images appeared. These 7 sword images were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper 7-star, brimming with killing intent. Go! Yi Chen shouted in a low voice. Chi-chi-chi-chi. Like a storm of pear blossoms, like rain hitting the banana leaves, the 7 sword shadows turned into 49, and the 49 sword shadows turned into nothingness, hiding in the void. In an instant, only starlight could be seen flickering, and the sword shadows could not be seen. It was like a sky full of stars, shrouding the front, and there was no way to dodge or hide. This defensive sword art is indeed powerful. It was Yi Chen's first time using the Big Dipper 7-star sword art. There were some flaws in it, but its might could already be seen. It could not be looked down upon. Speaking of which, trading spiritual sword for Situ Hao's defensive sword art back then was my profit. He didn't expect my soul to be different from ordinary people. Alright, now that I'm a life and death king, I should compensate him a little. Actually, even if Yi Chen didn't compensate Situ Hao, the latter wouldn't say anything. The exchange of the defensive sword art was completely fair. However, Yi Chen always followed his heart and would never go against it. For him, cultivating the martial Dao and sword Dao was also cultivating the heart. If one was open and aboveboard, one would have great accomplishments. If one was insidious, one would also have great accomplishments. As long as one didn't go against his heart, everything would be fine. Days passed by, and the Big Dipper 7-star sword art became more and more skillful in Yi Chen's hands, and its killing power became increasingly fierce. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's soul power and Zhenyuan were also becoming more and more compatible with Yi Chen. There was not the slightest barrier between them, and he was not far from being able to wield the sword with just a thought. On this day, Yi Chen appeared above the ocean. This place is not far from Monkey Island. How about paying a visit? According to Iron Monkey King's map, Yi Chen sensed that he was only a bit more than 10 million li away from Monkey Island, which could be reached in a cup of tea's time. Monkey Island, Old Shang, this is the last bottle of wine. If you finish it, you'll only get another one next year. You'd better save it. Beside the hot spring at the center of the island, Iron Monkey King and Enika Spear King sat across from each other on a stone table. Iron Monkey King painfully took out a bottle of wine. The bottle was yellow in color and looked very unremarkable. Enika Spear King unceremoniously took the bottle, opened the cork, and drank half of it in one gulp. Delicious, this one sip can increase my cultivation base by half a year. It's a pity that it's too little. Monkey, you say the same thing every year. Can't you try something new? I know you must be hiding a lot of monkey wine. Iron Monkey King glared at him. You still have the nerve to say that? This year, you've drunk 4 bottles of my wine, and I've only drunk 3.5. Do you think it's easy for me? A man and a beast often quarreled. Every time they didn't quarrel, they would feel that something was missing. Of course, this didn't mean that the two didn't have a good relationship. On the contrary, their relationship was so good that they would go through life and death together. Although Enika Spear King would come every once in a while to freeload for wine, he also spent a lot of effort and money to collect the ingredients for brewing the wine for Iron Monkey King. Iron Monkey King wasn't stingy either. Every time Enika Spear King came, he would give him a bottle of wine. Laughing, Enika Spear King said, "Stop glaring at me. I know you're hiding the wine to wait for Yi Chen's visit. We still owe him a life. I still don't know when he will come." Iron Monkey King was the most straightforward. He was afraid that he wouldn't be around when Yi Chen came. Thus, he simply shut himself in and stayed on the island. He even asked Enika Spear King to collect the ingredients to brew more top-grade monkey wine. No rush. At most, we'll pay him a visit when there's news of him. Enika Spear King took a sip of the wine, savoring the aftertaste. That's true. Iron Monkey King took out a half-full bottle of monkey wine and started drinking. Someone is coming. Suddenly, Enika Spear King's brows twitched and he put down the bottle. Who is it? Iron Monkey King stood up. His soul-sensing ability was inferior to Enika Spear King. Speak of Yi Chen, and Yi Chen will be here. Monkey, why aren't you going to welcome him? Enika Spear King smiled. He's really here? Iron Monkey King grinned. At this moment, a clear voice echoed, "This Yi has suddenly come to visit. I hope I didn't disturb you?" As soon as the voice arrived, a blue-robed youngster appeared outside the island and flew toward the center of the island. Who else could it be but Yi Chen? Where are you? Iron Monkey King and Enika Spear King went up to welcome him. You've entered life and death realm? Enika Spear King's gaze turned sluggish as he asked. Yi Chen nodded and said, I was lucky enough to cross the life and death calamity. Indeed, a peerless genius. Even before entering life and death realm, you can contend against life and death kings. Once you break through, you can go anywhere in the world. Enika Spear King sighed inwardly. Before Yi Chen entered life and death realm, although he had the strength to contend against life and death realm experts, life and death kings who didn't know him would inevitably look down on him, not treating him as an existence of the same level. But now, Yi Chen had become a life and death king, and no one dared to look down on him anymore. His status had changed drastically, and it was incomparable to before. Life and death realm was a symbol of strength as well as status. It was the highest existence in Elysium, and its significance was enormous. Come this way. Beside the hot spring, Iron Monkey King added a stone stool and waved his hand on the stone table. Amidst a flicker of light, 3 pots of brightly colored fruits appeared. One was a banana-shaped green fruit, one was a longan-sized yellow fruit, and the last one was a jewel-like orange fruit. As soon as these fruits came into contact with the air, the fragrance of the 3 completely different kinds assailed one's nostrils. Clearly, they were not ordinary fruits. This was not the end. Iron Monkey King took out 3 more bottles of monkey wine, 1 for each of them. Yi Chen, this is supreme grade monkey wine. Have a taste first. Iron Monkey King looked at Yi Chen hopefully. Yi Chen couldn't help but laugh. Uncorking the bottle, he lightly took a sip. Good wine. Yi Chen's eyes brightened. This monkey wine was extremely viscous. Holding it in his mouth, the wine energy rose, clearing his mind. Swallowing it into his stomach, the wine energy instantly spread throughout his body. Not a single part of his body felt uncomfortable. Most importantly, this wine energy contained extremely rich heaven and earth energy. Circulating Zhenyuan, the energy was instantly refined into Zhenyuan. A single mouthful had increased his cultivation base by dozens of days, and this mouthful was merely 1/20th of the entire bottle. If he drank the entire bottle, his cultivation base for a year wouldn't be able to escape. You two are truly enjoying yourselves. This is my first time seeing a wine that can increase one's cultivation base. Yichen couldn't help but take another big gulp. Only then did he put down the bottle and say, Iron Monkey King's brows rose in delight as he said, I won't hide it from you. Brewing supreme-grade monkey wine is not something that every demonic king of Monkey Clan can do. Last time, a life and death king came to buy my wine brewing method, but I didn't even pay him any attention. Come have some fruits. These fruits pair well with monkey wine. They are quite beneficial to the body. This is the green mist fruit, this is the earth fragrance fruit, and this is the gem fruit. Yichen tasted a few of each fruit. The taste was pretty good, and they were quite nourishing to the body. After Yichen finished drinking and eating, the three started chatting. Chapter 9:12. Originally, I thought that after cultivating to life and death realm, I would be free and unfettered, not needing to work as hard as before. I could do whatever I wanted and easily live for 1,000 years. Unfortunately, we're living in a chaotic world. Chaotic worlds give birth to heroes, but at the same time, there will inevitably be a lot of dark turbulence. If we want to preserve our lives and not fall prematurely, we can only continuously strengthen ourselves. Anika Spear King took a sip of monkey wine and smiled bitterly. Yichen asked curiously, Brother Chong, you've also heard of this? As far as he knew, the number of people who knew about the otherworldly experts should be few and far between. How could we not know? There are many circles among life and death kings, and different circles have more or less the same people. Some secret information, as long as it's said, will spread to every circle. Of course, what we know is only the external information. As for the deeper secrets, we don't know much about them. Anika Spear King explained. So that's how it is. As Brother Chong said, this era is not stable. Otherworldly experts are eyeing us like tigers preying on their prey. Otherworldly demons are a great threat to our Elysium. You too might not know, but when I was undergoing my tribulation, some demons sent puppets to kill me. Later on, 2 demon kings of demons personally came. Fortunately, I managed to escape. Yichen didn't conceal anything and told Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King about some of his experiences. You were chased by demons? Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King were shocked. Demonic race was a race from another world that was above the human race. Under the condition that their cultivation bases were equal, the demonic race would have the upper hand. But then again, the fact that Yichen could escape from the hands of 2 demon kings was enough to shock the world. It should be known that the demonic race was not stupid. This kind of assassination plan had to have been carefully prepared. If it were any other peerless genius, they would have fallen long ago. Brother Yi, you'll be in danger in the future. Back then, Shinho was also chased. Although she's still alive and well, as long as there's a chance, the demons won't give up on killing her. The one speaking was Iron Monkey King. Yichen smiled, don't worry. Although Yichen is still far from being unparalleled, it won't be that easy for the demons to kill me. Since coming to this world, Yichen had experienced countless dangers. He had long cultivated the ability to remain calm even if the sky collapsed. He wouldn't be frightened by the demons. Anika Spear King admired Yichen's heroic spirit, but he still said worriedly, the demons have come. I'm afraid that the curtains have already been opened. I'm afraid that we are just small and can only go with the flow. But the atmosphere couldn't help but become a bit heavy. After a long while, Iron Monkey King suddenly said to Yichen, Brother Yi, you've already become a life and death king, but you still don't have your own title. According to the rules of Elysium, you have to go to the Bestowal King Palace within a year and obtain your own title. Otherwise, the palace spirit will directly send you there. If Monkey didn't mention it, I would have forgotten to remind you. Anika Spear King also said, Bestowal King Palace? Battle King's memories didn't contain any information regarding Bestowal King Palace. Iron Monkey King explained, Bestowal King Palace has existed since ancient times. I only know that the kings of Elysium obtain their titles from Bestowal King Palace. Every king's title is permanently engraved on the Bestowal King pillar at the center of Bestowal King Palace. As for the palace spirit, it is the spirituality of Bestowal King Palace. It is not weak in intelligence, and controls the rules of Bestowal King Palace. In the end, the title is also decided by it. Then, do I choose the title myself, or does the palace spirit choose it? Yichen asked. It's decided by the palace spirit. Of course, you can also reject it and have it changed to another one as long as it meets the requirements. Oh, Yichen nodded. All right. Anika Spear King added. Before the title, the palace spirit will arrange an illusory opponent for you according to your battle strength. Then, it will choose the most suitable title for you based on your battle style. Under normal circumstances, the majority of life and death kings will be satisfied with the title the palace spirit chooses. Is that so? Since it's within a year, I'm not in a hurry. Yichen didn't plan to obtain his own title immediately. Anika Spear King said, Indeed, you don't have to rush. In my opinion, Brother Yi has a chance of obtaining the Sword King title and shattering the ancient Sword King's legend. Sword King title? Iron Monkey King's eyes opened wide. Among the many special titles, the Sword King title was the most difficult to obtain. Blade King, Spear King, Axe King, they were all a bit lower. The main reason was that the Sword King title was too special. The other Blade Kings, Spear Kings, and Axe Kings all eventually became emperors, becoming Blade Emperors, Spear Emperors, and Axe Emperors. Only the Sword King didn't become an emperor. Moreover, in the next several 100,000 years, no one was able to obtain the Sword King title, let alone Sword Emperor or Sword Emperor. If Yichen wanted to obtain the Sword King title, he could only surpass the ancient Sword King at the same time. Anything is possible. The reason why the ancient Sword King couldn't be surpassed was mainly because he was indeed a stunning genius. When he died, he was only 50 years old. If he had lived a few more years, he might have become the first monarch in history. However, the ancients were meant to be surpassed. Nobody could surpass him in the past, but that doesn't mean nobody can now. In fact, in the years after the ancient Sword King, there were people who surpassed the Sword King in Sword Dao. However, none of them reached the Sword King level at the age of 50. It was all due to the accumulation of time. Among the Sword Kings at the same time, the ancient Sword King was truly the first. However, Anika Spear King still had a premonition that a miracle might happen to Yichen. Thank you for the compliment. I will try my best. Yichen admired the ancient Sword King. He also believed that if the Sword King had lived a few more years, he would have achieved several times more. Even if he couldn't become the first monarch in history, he would at least be in the top 3. Come, let's drink. We will congratulate Brother Yi in advance for obtaining the Sword King title. Iron Monkey King had always been carefree. After hearing Anika Spear King's words, he also took it to heart. Time passed quickly. 3 days later, Yichen left Monkey Island. Before leaving, Iron Monkey King gave Yichen 3 small jars of monkey wine. 1 jar was equivalent to 3 bottles. Originally, he wanted to give 5 jars, but Yichen knew that Iron Monkey King had spent a lot of effort and resources to brew this monkey wine. According to Anika Spear King, 1 jar of monkey wine would take a year to brew. Of course, if the time was tight, 3 jars could also be brewed in a year. However, generally, there weren't so many materials. The materials needed to be collected slowly. Time was one thing, but the brewing materials were all top grade and priceless. How could Yichen accept 5 jars from the other party? Although supreme grade monkey wine can increase cultivation base, drinking it all at once is too wasteful. It's not bad to use it to entertain friends. Life and Death Kings had a noble status. Sometimes, other Life and Death Kings would come knocking on their doors. After a long time, they would form a circle, and it would be too shameful if they didn't have anything good to entertain their guests. Yichen pondered for a moment. He wanted to find some spirit tree nurturing fluid to mature the fire pear tree. If the fire pear tree became a supreme grade spirit tree, its fire pears would also be good for entertaining guests. Let's return to Eternal Sky Sect first. After researching the second style of vibrational sword arts, I'll officially return to True Spirit Continent. High level 4-star battle strength was not enough to intimidate the crowd. If Yichen were to return, he would have to return with absolute strength. And right now, he was still lacking something. Soon, Yichen returned to Eternal Sky Sect. On the second day, everyone in Eternal Sky sect knew that Yi Chen had entered life and death realm. My Eternal Sky sect finally has a life and death king. From now on, who would dare to offend my Eternal Sky sect? Ha! The leader of Eternal Sky sect, Li Zhangfeng, was ecstatic. Having a life and death king was extremely important. Without a life and death king, Eternal Sky sect would not have enough deterrence. Those sects who dared to offend them would also have to consider the consequences of offending a life and death king. It was especially so for those life and death kings who specialized in speed. If they were offended, there would be trouble in the future. Even if they didn't dare to attack your sect, they could easily kill your disciples or disciples. Life and death kings would either not make enemies, or once they did, it would be a death grudge. Therefore, under normal circumstances, life and death kings would rarely intentionally offend others. The shock of Eternal Sky sect didn't distract Yi Chen, who was wholeheartedly researching the second style of vibrational sword arts. Swoosh! A cloth-tearing sound was heard as Yi Chen slashed out with his sword. The sword light was extremely clear, and if one were to magnify it 100 times, they would find that the sword light was actually vibrating at an extremely high frequency. But because the vibrating speed was too fast, people couldn't feel the vibrations at all. It looked extremely clear, no different from an ordinary sword attack. Bang! The opposite mountain peak was suddenly cut in the middle, causing dust to fill the sky. The thin mountain peak in the middle was directly turned into powder by the sword light. The cross-section of the mountain peak was as smooth as marble. Not good, the metal profound and the vibrating power are not harmonized. One knew one's own strength well. This sword seemed to be majestic, but in fact, there were many flaws in the details. In other words, the technique was not enough. It would be fine against ordinary opponents, but against kings like Demonic Blade King who were proficient in vibrating power, the technique would be at a disadvantage. Of course, Yi Chen could obtain victory with absolute strength. However, Yi Chen preferred to surpass the opponent in terms of technique as well. Someone's coming. On this day, a man and a woman arrived at Eternal Sky sect. The man was a skinny middle-aged man with a trace of faint blade chi on his body. The blade chi was extremely exquisite, like a spring breeze caressing one's face. The woman following behind him had an extremely young appearance. Her appearance was charming and elegant, but she was Demonic Blade Sect's disciple, Lan Sen. The two didn't directly arrive at Yi Chen's place. Instead, they politely landed on Eternal Sky sect's main peak plaza. I truly didn't expect him to become a life and death king so quickly. The middle-aged man sighed with emotion. Originally, he was prepared to help Yi Chen when he was in danger. Sending charcoal in snowy weather was always better than adding flowers to a brocade. However, his plan couldn't keep up with the changes, causing him to miss the opportunity to befriend the latter. Fortunately, his disciple Lan Sanmei had a good relationship with Yi Chen. After learning that Yi Chen had entered life and death realm, he personally paid a visit with Lan Sanmei. Chapter 9:13. Mei, your luck is very good. Such a rare genius was actually encountered by you, and you even became friends with him. Although we cultivators have our pride and dislike bowing and scraping, human resources are indispensable. Back then, Mysterious Queen smoothly entered life and death realm and became an influential figure of true spirit continent because of Dragon King's shadow. This Yi Chen has the shadow of both Dragon King and Mysterious Queen behind him. Compared to them, I'm still far behind, and my words don't carry much weight. On the other hand, this Yi Chen will certainly become an influential figure of true spirit continent in the future. The middle-aged man was precisely Demonic Blade Sect's leader, Demonic Blade King. His battle strength had reached 3-star, and he was quite famous in Blood Sky Continent. However, in Elysium, 3-star battle strength didn't have much of a say. 4-star battle strength was barely enough, and only 5-star battle strength could make a difference. Everyone had to give face to him. With the arrival of the Age of Turmoil, having a powerful king as a backer was a must. Without a backer and ordinary strength, one could easily fall. Master, Mei and Yichen have known each other for a period of time. I can see that he is a person who values friendship. If we treat him with sincerity, he will treat us with sincerity as well. If we only want to get close to him, he won't want to have a deep relationship with us. Lan Sanmei reminded Demonic Blade King. You're right. It's only reasonable for us to be friends with him, not to befriend him with ulterior motives. How could Demonic Blade King not understand this logic? Demonic Blade King and Miss Lan's arrival brings light to Eternal Sky Sect. I apologize for not going out to meet you. In the palace, Li Zhangfeng personally came out to greet them with a smile. Demonic Blade King faintly nodded. Originally, with his status, he wouldn't have anything to do with a late Sea of Soul realm martial artist like Li Zhangfeng. However, with Yichen behind him, his status immediately changed. Sect leader Li, we've come to find Yichen. Lan Sanmei said politely. Li Zhangfeng said, Elder Yi is training in the core area of the mountain range. I've already sent someone to inform him. Why don't you two go to the guest palace and have some tea? All right. The Demonic Blade King nodded. As the two of them strode forward, a sword light approached from afar and landed on the square. It was Yichen. Miss Lan, Yichen smiled at Lan San, then his gaze fell on the Demonic Blade King, and this is? Lan Sanmei introduced, Yichen, this is my master, the Demonic Saber King. He is also the sect leader of the Demonic Saber sect. As she spoke, she sized up Yichen. Compared to before, Yichen's body was emitting a frightening pressure. This pressure couldn't be concealed at all. Even if Yichen had restrained his king's aura, he couldn't restrain this pressure. After entering life and death realm, one's soul and Jin Yuan would both sublimate. Even if he didn't do it intentionally, it would still make people under life and death realm feel oppressed. Once a life and death king intentionally released his pressure, people under life and death realm would lose all desire to attack. Of course, some peak geniuses were exceptions. Her master, Demonic Blade King, had a pressure, but it didn't seem as powerful as Yichen's. So it's Demonic Blade King. Welcome. Yichen cupped his fists. Demonic Blade King smiled. I hope you don't take offense to my sudden visit. I heard that you've entered life and death realm, and now that I've seen you, the rumors are indeed true. This Lan congratulates you first. Demonic Blade King also cupped his fists. This way, please. Yichen's right hand gestured toward his mountain peak and said to Li Zhangfeng, Sect leader, I'll take care of them. All right. Li Zhangfeng knew that it had nothing to do with him. However, a king personally paying a visit to Eternal Sky Sect would give them a lot of face. The three flew to Yichen's Elder's Peak and landed beside a pavilion. The pavilion was situated at the highest point of the mountain peak, and there were stone tables and chairs inside. Sitting inside, one could see the sea of clouds flowing beneath one's feet. The moist wind blew gently, giving one a feeling of not knowing the passage of time outside the mountain. As for the monkey wine, since the two sides weren't familiar with each other, Yichen naturally wouldn't take it out to receive Demonic Blade King. Fortunately, he had prepared a few precious tea sets and many top-grade teas. After boiling the water, Yichen poured the tea for Demonic Blade King and Lan Sen. The tea's fragrance filled the air. After pouring the tea, Yichen took out a fire pear from his plant ring and placed it on the stone table. Good fruit. Demonic Blade King ate the pear and couldn't help but praise. I don't have anything to receive you. I've made a fool of myself in front of Demonic Blade King. Yichen held the teacup as the mountain breeze fluttered his blue robes and ink-black hair. Brother Yi hasn't had his title yet, right? Demonic Blade King suddenly asked. Putting down the teacup, Yichen said, No rush. I'll go to the title palace in a few days. Oh, that's good too. It's not a good thing to go early. Demonic Blade King nodded and looked at Lan Sanmei with a smile. I heard from Mei that Brother Yi has also developed a sword art that contains vibration power, which is similar to the demonic blade spell. I believe that I have made some progress in the research of vibration power. How about we spar? Yichen looked at Demonic Blade King in astonishment. The latter's words clearly indicated that he wanted to use this opportunity to teach him some techniques related to vibration power. Although Yi Chen's comprehension was extremely high, His accumulation was not even 1/10 of demonic blade kings. With the latter's guidance, he could save a lot of time and avoid many detours. Of course, that would be for the best. Regardless of the other's goal, Yi Chen would not miss this opportunity. If the other wanted to befriend him, then he had succeeded. In fact, Demonic Blade King's proposal to spar with Yi Chen was not only to teach him some vibration power techniques, but also to see what extent Yi Chen's battle strength had reached after entering life and death realm. This was something that many people in the know would want to know, and he would be the first to know. The two didn't choose any other place to spar. This time, the two had decided not to use Zhenyuan or will, and would only use blade arts and sword arts. The range wouldn't be too large. Above the sea of clouds, the two stood 100 meters apart. Beside the sea of clouds, Lan Sanmei sat alone in a pavilion, drinking tea while watching the battle. "Brother Yi, be careful." Demonic Blade King pulled out his black long blade, its edge flickering with a cold light. "You be careful too." Yi Chen's right hand grasped the evil vanquishing sword's hilt and slowly pulled it out. Ding! Demonic Blade King's speed was extremely fast. His figure flickered, and he appeared before Yi Chen, slashing out with a black blade light. Demonic Blade King's speed was fast, but Yi Chen's reaction was not slow. The evil vanquishing sword blocked Demonic Blade King's long blade, and the vibration power surged forward. Buzz! A large amount of ripples spread out, turning the sea of clouds into nothingness. "Good!" Demonic Blade King laughed heartily, slashing again and again at Yi Chen. Each slash was faster than the previous, as if there was no end to it. The powerful vibration power was completely restrained on the blade, and only erupted when it came into contact with Yi Chen's evil vanquishing sword. If it were an ordinary king, their weapon would have been sent flying, and their arms would have been injured, spurting blood. However, Yi Chen was also proficient in vibration power. Demonic Blade King was exchanging pointers with ordinary blade arts, so it was naturally easy for him to deal with it. This Yi Chen's achievements in vibration power are truly terrifying. In such a short amount of time, he was able to use vibration power to such a degree. He is indeed a rare genius that only appears once in 10,000 years. The more they exchanged pointers, the more shocked Demonic Blade King became. With ordinary blade arts, he was unable to do anything to Yi Chen. Although Yi Chen's achievements in vibration power were slightly weaker than his, Yi Chen's sword angle was much better than his. Every time his long blade came into contact with Yi Chen's sword, 10% of his power would be wasted. Ding! 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 Dazzling sparks danced in the sea of clouds. These sparks seemed to have a mind of their own. Sometimes they would spin in the air, sometimes they would fly up and down, and sometimes they would shoot out in a straight line. Every time they clashed, the sparks would have different trajectories that were hard to grasp. "Take my demonic slash." Demonic Blade King gripped his blade with both hands, and with a low roar he slashed out. Compared to Lan Sanmei, Demonic Slash was more than 10 times stronger in Demonic Blade King's hands. The blade light was not blurry at all, and it stuck close to the edge of the blade, sparkling and translucent. "I also have a sky-cutting sword." Yi Chen neither retreated nor dodged, instead using the first style of vibrational sword art, sky-cutting sword. Bing, bing. Numerous sounds erupted at the same time. The two of them did not move. Their swords and sabers clashed against each other. However, the surrounding sea of clouds suddenly trembled. Then, it was cut by the vibrating power. Kacha, kacha, cut. Several huge mountains nearby were cut by the invisible power. Mountain rocks tumbled down. It should be known that the two did not use Zhenyuan or will, and only used blade arts and sword arts to exchange pointers. Even so, the ripples that spread out were still inconceivably huge. Boom! The vibrating power completely exploded, and a twisting mass of air exploded, sending the two flying. Amazing! The next blade is called Rampage Demonic Blade, which I spent 10 years to create. Brother Yi, watch carefully. Demonic Blade Arts and Demonic Slash were blade arts passed down in Demonic Blade Sect. Meanwhile, Lan Sanmei's Destruction Slash and Demonic Blade King's Rampage Demonic Blade were both killing moves created based on Demonic Blade Arts and Demonic Slash. Lan Sanmei's destruction / had not been completed yet, but there were already signs of it. Demonic Blade King's rampage demonic blade had already reached perfection. Raising his black blade horizontally, Demonic Blade King gave a low roar, and his whole body shot out in a straight line. This blade strike was like a thunderous roar, vividly displaying the explosive power. What a powerful blade move! Yi Chen's pupils shrank. Demonic Blade King's blade had shaken his mind, and he subconsciously thought that he would not be able to block it. The second style of vibrational sword art had not been completed yet, but Yi Chen did not care. The sound of cloth tearing resounded as Yi Chen's hair fluttered in the wind, and his sword light shone brightly. Clang! The sound of metal exploding and twisting resounded as the two's blades and swords clashed fiercely. The sparks were as bright as the sun and moon, dancing around the two. With a muffled groan, Yi Chen's whole body shot out. The clothes on his right arm had been torn to shreds, scattering in all directions like butterflies, accompanied by a trace of blood. Chapter 9:14. Too powerful. The vibrational energy condensed into one and exploded at the moment of contact. Yi Chen felt that his right arm was already numb, and his bones were sore. Being able to hold onto the evil shattering sword without losing control was already the best he could do. Stabilizing his body with all his might, Yi Chen operated the undying body and healed the hidden injuries on his right arm. Then, he said in admiration, "What a good rampaging demonic blade. Yi Chen has seen it for himself. Dare I ask, Demonic Blade King, how much strength did you use in this blade?" How could he not feel that Demonic Blade King had not used his full strength? If he had, it wouldn't have been as simple as a light injury on his right arm. His bones would have been shattered and his muscles would have disintegrated. Of course, it was impossible for Yi Chen to not know his limits. This was just a spar, and neither side used Jinyuan or will. About 30%, Demonic Blade King said honestly. Although he knew that Demonic Blade King had not used his full strength, hearing that he had only used 30% still made Yi Chen a bit dazed. This Demonic Blade King was not to be underestimated. No wonder he was a peak existence amongst high-step kings. Just this rampaging demonic blade alone was something that few high-step kings could block. "Brother Yi, do you want to try again?" Demonic Blade King asked. Of course. Yi Chen's heart itched. After the spar with Demonic Blade King, he had gained a new understanding of vibrational energy, especially the last rampaging demonic blade, which made him feel enlightened. 40% of this attack. Demonic Blade King reminded before shooting out again. His blade was like thunder, and the blade light was extremely restrained, as if it could even devour sunlight. Yi Chen's expression was solemn as he gripped the evil vanquishing sword with both hands and slashed out vertically. Clang! Sparks exploded, and a berserk chi wave swept out in all directions. In the next instant, a small mountain nearby collapsed, sending rocks flying everywhere. Just like last time, Yi Chen's right arm was sore and powerless. Blood spurted out as he shot out. Improvement. Demonic Blade King's expression froze. At 30%, Yi Chen was like this. At 40%, Yi Chen was still like this. If this was an improvement, what was? Amazing! The Demonic Blade King was shocked by Yi Chen's comprehension and learning ability. Again, Yi Chen had already healed the internal injuries on his right arm. Alright, I'll use half of my strength this time. Taking a deep breath, the Demonic Saber King was extremely precise. He executed the same saber technique as before without the slightest error. However, this time, the explosive power of the saber technique was a level higher. It was like a sudden clap of thunder or a flash flood. Kacha! This was the sound of bones breaking. Yi Chen's right arm was bleeding profusely. I can't keep up with my progress. Yi Chen's chest tightened, and there was a taste of blood in his throat. The further one went, the harder it was to learn the vibrational power. In the beginning, Yi Chen was able to keep up with the Demonic Blade King's rhythm, but later on, he couldn't keep up. In the end, he was still a human, not a god. The rate of improvement couldn't be that great forever. It would eventually slow down. Will the next strike still use half of my strength? The Demonic Blade King asked. It's fine. 60%. The demonic blade king gradually increased the power of his saber, giving him a sense of urgency. He didn't want this sense of urgency to disappear. Humans were strange creatures. The more pressured they were, the greater their potential would be. Of course, there had to be a limit, or else they would collapse. Then, be careful. The demonic blade king understood Yi Chen's thoughts and attacked once again. This time, the muscles of Yi Chen's right arm disintegrated, and his bones broke inch by inch. Using his weakness to clash with the demonic blade king's strength, the result was naturally miserable. It was like a high-grade king who didn't use his own killing move, but instead used the unfamiliar vibrational power to clash with the demonic blade king. The result wouldn't be any better. He probably wouldn't even be able to receive 120% of the demonic blade king's power. Stop for a while. Yi Chen suddenly stopped. It wasn't that he couldn't bear it, but he had comprehended too much at once, and he didn't have time to digest it. The more time he wasted, the more his inspiration would disappear. Therefore, after saying this, he immediately closed his eyes. I've comprehended something. The demonic blade king understood. He stood in the air and waited quietly. So that's how it is. Yi Chen wasn't the only one who had comprehended something. Lan Sanmei also had some comprehension. Her demonic blade arts were the same as the demonic blade king's. Although she didn't personally experience the demonic blade king's demonic blade, she still benefited a lot from watching from the side. After all, she was different from Yi Chen. Yi Chen had his own path, and he also cultivated sword arts. Lan Sanmei, on the other hand, cultivated the demonic blade arts that had been passed down since the founding of the demonic blade sect. Her heart surging, Lan Sanmei couldn't help but take out her long blade and practice. The wind and rain in the outside world had nothing to do with Yi Chen. He was immersed in comprehending the vibrational power. In his mind, the demonic blade king's image attacked him again and again. The movements became slower and clearer, as if it had been slowed down by 1,000 times. Each movement could be seen clearly. His soul power was 10 times that of an ordinary person, which made Yi Chen's simulation ability extraordinary. His analysis ability could be said to be terrifying. Oh right, just like this. Yi Chen didn't open his eyes. He held the evil vanquishing sword and casually waved it. After dozens of times, Yi Chen opened his eyes. This time, I'll use 60%. Yi Chen said to the demonic blade king. The demonic blade king nodded. Clang. The result shocked the demonic blade king. Last time, Yi Chen's arm muscles were disintegrated and his bones were broken. This time, Yi Chen only had some cracks in his muscles, but his bones weren't broken. His comprehension is too terrifying. For the first time, the demonic blade king felt a chill from a certain person's comprehension. As expected, Yi Chen finally found the right path. The demonic blade king's future was still ahead, but the path he was studying was wrong. Or to be more accurate, he had taken a detour. Therefore, no matter how hard he tried, he could only approach perfection. Now that he was sparring with the demonic blade king, he was guided to the right path, and his improvement was starting to become obvious. At 70%, Yi Chen once again experienced the pain of his right arm being torn apart. However, he quickly adapted to the 70% and began to move towards 80%. This kid is definitely a freak. He actually improved so much in one day. The demonic blade king couldn't understand why Yi Chen's improvement was so great. It was beyond his imagination, breaking common sense. In his opinion, no matter how talented a genius was, there had to be a process of gradual improvement. No one could do it in one go. If there was someone who could do it, that person would be a god. Of course, he didn't know that Yi Chen had been studying the second style of the vibrational sword art for a long time. Because he had taken a detour, he had stagnated. The demonic blade king's appearance had allowed Yi Chen to return to the right path. Adding on his previous accumulation, his improvement was naturally godly, and his comprehension of the vibrational force was suddenly enlightened. Apart from this, one couldn't ignore the fact that Yi Chen's comprehension was indeed ridiculously strong. 10 times the comprehension of an ordinary person was already a great miracle. The rampant demonic blade king reached 80%, and its power suddenly rose to a whole new level. After 10 consecutive exchanges, Yichen still couldn't close the gap. This made him understand that the accumulation of studying the second style of the vibrational sword art had been used up. Just by relying on his comprehension, it would be difficult to digest so much information in a short period of time. Slightly embarrassed, Yichen said, "Demonic Blade King, let's call it a day. Have you been busy recently?" The Demonic Blade King heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Chen's mind was tired, and he was also a little tired from the shock of Yi Chen's comprehension. "I've been busy recently, but Mayor and I will disturb you for a few days. It won't be troublesome, right?" The Demonic Blade King's thoughts were clear, and he immediately guessed what Yi Chen was thinking. In fact, if it were him instead of Yi Chen, he most likely wouldn't be willing to part with such a good sparring partner. "It's not troublesome at all. I just wanted to keep you for a few days," Yi Chen generously admitted. The Demonic Blade King had worked hard to spar with him, so Yi Chen naturally had to properly entertain him. Returning to the pavilion, he took out a jar of monkey wine and 3 cups from his storage ring. "This is a supreme-grade monkey wine gifted to me by a friend. Have a taste." Yi Chen filled the cups for the two. The Demonic Blade King sniffed it, and his eyes brightened as he gulped it down. "Good wine. I've never tasted such good wine before. No, this wine can increase cultivation base." The viscous monkey wine entered his stomach, and its energy was immediately refined into Zhen Yuan. It was extremely pure. Lan Sanmei drank a mouthful, but her face turned red and her body heated up. The energy contained in the wine was too pure, making the wine extremely potent. Even with her cultivation base that had yet to reach life and death realm, she immediately became drunk. The Zhen Yuan in her body surged, and she almost lost control and exploded. She couldn't help but glance at Yi Chen in reproach. Yi Chen smiled. "This supreme-grade monkey wine takes 1 year to brew. 1 cup can increase a life and death king's cultivation base by 1 month. Truly good wine." Demonic Blade King couldn't help but glance at the wine jar on the stone table. In fact, increasing cultivation base was secondary. With Demonic Blade King's cultivation base, a cup of monkey wine would be useless. However, after reaching life and death realm, ordinary wine would be tasteless if it were cold water. He had also learned how to brew wine, but unfortunately, he could only brew upper-grade wine. How could it compare to supreme-grade monkey wine? Yi Chen filled Demonic Blade King's cup once again. On the same day, Lan Sanmei went to bed early. Yi Chen and Demonic Blade King emptied the jar of monkey wine and became somewhat drunk. 5 days passed in a flash. On this day, Yi Chen and Demonic Blade King continued exchanging pointers. "Yi Chen, you've put in a lot of effort this time. No one in the same realm can receive my Rampage Demonic Blade without being affected." Demonic Blade King held the black long blade with both hands and reminded, "This sword of mine is also close to perfection. I have to thank you for these 5 days of guidance." In these 5 days, Yi Chen had gained a deeper understanding of the vibration power. Before, he had been walking an unorthodox path, and the reason why he was able to improve so fast was because of his high comprehension ability. Without this advantage, it would be hard for him to make any progress with the vibration power. "Alright, take this." Demonic Blade King's blade slashed horizontally, causing a thunderous explosion. Sucking in a deep breath, Yi Chen's eyes erupted with an astonishing radiance. As the sword slashed out, the surrounding Yuan Qi seemed to have lost its core, and the space seemed to have refracted. It was as if this sword was not a sword, but a beam of light. The two remained motionless. In the next moment, Demonic Blade King's right arm trembled violently. Countless sharp qi surged out of it like a small tornado wreaking havoc. "What is this sword called?" Demonic Blade King asked after losing his right arm. "Let's call it Heaven Wounding Sword." Chapter 9:15. Heaven Wounding Sword, Vibrational Sword Spells Second Style. It was different from the Heaven Splitting Sword. The heaven-hurting sword transmitted the vibration power into the opponent's body and carried out an internal vibration explosion. Therefore, this required the vibration power to be extremely concentrated, or else it would be consumed prematurely. The reason why the demonic Blade King was able to receive this sword strike and only lost his right arm was mainly because his vibration power was also very concentrated, so the impact he received was not great. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as his right arm exploding, but his entire body exploding. Amazing! The Rampage Demon Blade that I spent 10 years to create can't even compare to your Heaven Wounding Sword. How shameful! Demonic Blade King spat out a mouthful of turbid air. This is all thanks to Senior Demonic Blade King's guidance. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to complete this move so quickly. Yi Chen was telling the truth. According to his estimation, it would take him at least 3 months to complete this attack. But with someone to teach him, it would be a different story. What he did not know was that there were people who had been stuck at a certain level for countless years. But one day, after being reminded by someone, they would suddenly see a whole new world. Without a powerful comprehension, even if I guide you, it would be useless. The demonic Blade King shook his head. He had personally experienced the heaven-inflicted sword before, so he was very clear on how frightening this sword was. When the two exchanged blows, neither Zhen Yuan nor will was used, so the lethality of the heaven-inflicted sword was not that great. But once Zhen Yuan and will were used, the heaven-inflicted sword's lethality would be increased by 100 times, and the gap would be even greater. For example, before Zhen Yuan and will were used, the Rampage Demon Blade's lethality would be 900, and the heaven-inflicted sword's lethality would be 1000. With a difference of 100, the ratio would not increase, but the effect would be completely different. Moreover, Yi Chen's destruction sword intent had reached the 6th step. Combined with Heaven Wounding Sword, the destructive power could only be described as terrifying. It was definitely a killing weapon. Brother Yi, I want to see you use Heaven Wounding Sword with all your strength. Would it be troublesome? Demonic Blade King suddenly suggested. All right. Yi Chen agreed without the slightest hesitation. This isn't a good place to test the sword. Let's go somewhere else. Yi Chen said. Of course, let's go to the 3rd layer. Demonic Blade King raised his head. The 3rd heaven was known as Zenith Heaven, which was actually a starry sky. However, this starry sky was confined within Elysium, separated from the starry sky outside by a world barrier. In the starry sky, countless stars twinkled. Some were close, some were far away. Apart from the places where the light of the stars shone, everywhere else was pitch black and silent. This kind of pitch black wasn't pitch black to the point where one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. Instead, it was the kind of pitch black where one couldn't see how far or how deep it was, as if there was no end to it. After breaking through the 2nd layer of heaven, the extreme void sky, the 3 of them arrived in this starry sky. Although Lan Sanmei was not a life and death king, she had long since gained the strength to break through extreme void. Moreover, it was not her first time coming to this starry sky. She was very familiar with the gravity-free environment here, and didn't lose her composure. On the other hand, it was Yi Chen's first time coming to the starry sky. Breaking through extreme void sky required extremely powerful strength. When Yi Chen was still a mid-step half-step king, he didn't have the strength to do so. Later on, he became a high-step half-step king and went to life and death secret realm. Thereafter, Yi Chen's advancement speed was too fast, and he didn't even have time to comprehend life and death Dao and study martial skills. How could he have the opportunity to enter the starry sky? Is this the starry sky? Yi Chen felt as if his mind had received a huge impact. Those countless stars, that boundless, deep, and immeasurable darkness suddenly poured into his mind. The sky was no longer the sky, and the earth was no longer the earth. There was no sky, no earth, and no gravity at all. There was only freedom and solitude. Is this your first time coming to the starry sky? Seeing Yi Chen's expression, Lan Sanmei asked curiously. Yi Chen nodded, not denying it. I really don't know what you're thinking. Back then, when I had the strength to break through extreme void sky, I immediately came to take a look. Lan Sanmei sized up the beautiful starry sky and said, Demonic Blade King smiled, it's not too late to take a look now. However, Brother Yi, the starry sky is different from the space below. The space in the starry sky is extremely stable. Compared to this place, the space below is as fragile as tofu. Therefore, even life and death kings can't break the space here. However, since there's no gravity in the starry sky, and there's no air resistance, the speed of flying here is extremely fast. It's so fast that it'll astonish you. Is that so? Yi Chen's body suddenly shot out. A cyan light streaked across the silent starry sky, instantly reaching an extremely distant region. At the beginning, Yi Chen was still somewhat unable to adapt to the gravity-free and air-proof state. However, he soon adjusted. In terms of adapting to the environment, if an ordinary person could do 1/10 as well as Yi Chen, it would already be quite good. Is this his first time coming to the starry sky? Demonic Blade King and Lan Sanmei were somewhat doubtful. Apart from the initial awkwardness, Yi Chen's understanding of the starry sky even surpassed Lan Sanmei's, not inferior to Demonic Blade King's. Without circulating Zhenyuan, Yi Chen naturally floated in the starry sky, thinking inwardly, this speed is even faster than piercing through the void. Seems like Elysium's gravity is too powerful. That's right, Elysium is too huge. Moreover, it's different from ordinary stars, so its gravity is quite normal. As for the resistance, the faster one's speed, the greater the resistance. In the starry sky, it was not that there was no resistance, but it was very small. When one's speed reached a certain level, one could still feel the existence of resistance. Let's choose that star. Zhenyuan wrapped around Lan Sanmei. Demonic Blade King followed closely behind Yi Chen, pointing at a broken star in the distance. That star seemed to have experienced a king-level battle, as it was full of holes. There was a huge piece of land that had even separated from the star. However, due to the star's gravity, this piece of land that was thousands of li in size couldn't be separated too far from the broken star. Alright. Circulating his green lotus sword arts, Yi Chen increased his speed and flew over. Thousands of li away, the three stopped. Brother Yi, let me feel the power of your heaven-wounding sword. Demonic Blade King was quite expectant. He really wanted to know how powerful the heaven-wounding sword, which contained king-level Zhenyuan and sixth-step destruction sword intent, would be. Perhaps I can destroy it in one sword. Yi Chen smiled. Impossible. Demonic Blade King couldn't believe it. This star was more than 10,000 li in diameter, and he believed that it could be destroyed. But to destroy it in one sword, he didn't dare to believe it. It should be known that destroying 10,000 li of land and destroying a star with a diameter of 10,000 li were two completely different concepts. Destroying 10,000 li of land actually didn't affect the area too deep. On the other hand, the star was round, with a diameter of 10,000 li regardless of direction, the depth was the same. Thus, the difficulty of destroying it increased by more than 10 times. Never tried, but I think it's possible. Yi Chen knew the heaven-wounding sword the best. This kind of concentrated vibration power had an extremely powerful effect. Destroying a star should be similar to destroying a human body. Of course, in order to be absolutely safe, he didn't use the evil shattering sword. Instead, he took out the supreme grade Sky Scorpio sword. With the Sky Scorpio sword in hand, Yi Chen took a deep breath, his eyes bursting with radiance. Go! With a low roar, Yi Chen waved his sword from a distance. Incorporeal ripples spread out at an extremely fast speed, reaching the broken star in almost a blink of an eye. The star fiercely trembled to an extremely exaggerated degree. Many hill-sized pieces of land were shaken off, flying in all directions. Rumble! Sparks exploded along the cracks on the star's surface. It's really going to explode. Demonic Blade King Zhenyuan curled up, pulling Lan Sanmei back. Endless light erupted. With the three as the center, the starry sky became as bright as day. Their eyes couldn't see anything, and their shadows were stretched out endlessly. In the end, even the shadows were devoured by the endless light. In the next moment, a majestic and powerful shockwave spread out, incomparably scorching. Yi Chen's protective Zhenyuan emitted a sizzling sound as his Zhenyuan flowed away like water. Demonic Blade King was far away, so he wasn't affected as much. However, he was still blown several thousand li away by the shockwave. Through his soul power, he could see a huge shockwave rapidly expanding like a halo. Meanwhile, the star in the center had long since turned into a ball of fire, expanding and releasing enormous heat. What a frightening explosive power! After waving the sword, Yi Chen retreated 100,000 li away. However, he was still somewhat unable to bear it. If he had been too close, he might have been seriously injured. If he had been too close to the star, he might have been instantly turned into ashes, leaving not even his bones behind. Even the undying body couldn't save him, because his flesh and blood would have been vaporized. As the shockwave grew smaller and smaller, Demonic Blade King approached. You really destroyed it. I've underestimated the might of this sword. Demonic Blade King smiled. How's the power of a star's explosion? It's powerful, isn't it? The star doesn't seem to be a threat to us, but once it explodes, all its energy will burst out in an instant. Even life and death kings will have to retreat 3 feet. It indeed can't be underestimated. Yi Chen faintly nodded. As for being able to destroy a 10,000 li star, Yi Chen wasn't too surprised. Heaven Pain Sword was different from other moves. The vibrational energy was concentrated and transmitted to the core of the star, where it would rapidly explode, causing destruction from the inside out. If it were destroyed from the outside, it would at most make the star even more dilapidated. Perhaps after many years, the star would fall, but not now. Too powerful. Demonic Blade King could somewhat endure Yi Chen's destruction of a star, but Lan Sanmei's experience was broadened. After all, when she entered the starry sky before, she didn't dare to stray too far from extreme void sky. She had never seen someone fight in the starry sky and destroy a star. This was her first time. Her visual senses were pushed to the limit. In her mind, the magnificence and destruction of the star's explosion kept replaying. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.